Welcome back to Chronic Series. Today we are breaking down the eighth and final season of the Shaad from the season premiere through episode 8. We're talking about the grief surrounding Jada and Pastor Ezekiel, Victor and Shaad fighting to clear their names, Reggie's return to the South Side, Emmett and Kiesha preparing for marriage, Tiff learning the truth about Rob and the murder of Nuck that could bring nearly everybody's life crashing down. Then we're going to discuss what we expect from episode 9 and make our final predictions for the series finale. There will be major spoilers for the Shaad season 8 through episode 8. So consider yourself warned. Season 8 begins during one of the coldest and darkest periods these characters have experienced. Jada is gone and Alicia is dead. Pastor Ezekiel has been murdered. Victor and Shaad are fighting murder accusations, and Reg has returned and is trying to reclaim his place in Jake's life. Tiff is still grieving Rob, and Emmett is attempting to hold together a family that continues growing faster than his house, his business, and his patience. The season is called the coldest winter ever, but the temperature is not the real problem. The real cold comes from grief, secrets, and people becoming emotionally numb because they have experienced too much loss. Episode 1, Coldest Winter Ever, immediately shows how Jada's death has changed Emmett and Darnell. Emmett has spent most of the series depending on Jada. Even after he became more responsible, opened Smokies, and started raising his children more seriously, Jada remained the person he could turn to when life became overwhelming. Now she is gone. Emmett cannot call his mother when he feels confused, and he cannot ask her to help with the children, and he cannot depend on her to tell him when he is making another bad decision. Darnell is also struggling. He tries to continue living, but the home he shared with Jada contains too many memories. He may be moving forward physically, but emotionally he is still standing inside that house with her. Their grief becomes even more complicated when one of Emmett's sons, Devontae, comes to live with him. Devontae has been fighting, acting out, and struggling with his behavior. Then the situation becomes much worse when it is revealed that he brought Emmett's gun to school. That decision results in a long suspension and brings social services into Emmett and Kiesha's life. Emmett has spent years trying to prove that he is no longer the irresponsible young father we met during season 1. Now, one mistake by his son could cause the system to question whether any of the children are safe in his home. The situation forces Emmett to ask himself an uncomfortable question. Is he actually a good father, or has he simply become better than the version of himself he used to be? Those are not necessarily the same thing. Kiesha supports Emmett, but she also recognizes that their household needs more structure. They are raising several children with different personalities, different mothers, and different problems. Their home is becoming crowded emotionally and physically. Kiesha begins reconsidering her idea of homeschooling, believing that a different environment may help Devontae and the other children. Emmett is not completely against the idea, but every major decision reveals a growing difference between them. Emmett wants to be seen as the man leading the family. Kiesha wants to make sure the family is actually being led somewhere. That difference becomes increasingly important as the season continues. While Emmett's family is grieving Jada, Papa and Kenya are grieving Pastor Ezekiel. Ezekiel's death is believed to be connected to Nuck. Ezekiel knew too much. Police were questioning him, and Nuck apparently decided that leaving him alive created unnecessary risk. For Papa, the loss is devastating. He already lost his biological father. Now he has lost another older man who gave him spiritual direction and helped him understand what kind of leader he might become. Papa begins questioning his faith. He wonders whether the pain surrounding him is punishment. He turns toward drinking and smoking as he struggles to understand why everyone he looks toward for guidance keeps disappearing. For most of the series, Papa was the optimistic one. Jake was angry. Kevin was cautious. Papa believed faith and good intentions could help people find their way. Season 8 forces him to confront the possibility that faith does not protect people from consequences. It only gives them something to hold while those consequences arrive. Meanwhile, Tiff is still grieving Rob, but instead of moving away from the danger connected to his death, she begins moving closer to Nuck. Nuck provides comfort, attention, and a sense of protection. Tiff knows he is dangerous. She knows he was involved with Duda's organization, but she does not yet know the most important truth. Nuck was responsible for Rob's death. That means every moment of comfort between them is built on deception. Nuck is helping Tiff survive grief that he created. At the same time, Tiff's mother, Dolly, begins questioning whether Tiff and Emmett are giving EJ enough stability. Dolly even considers taking legal action to raise EJ herself. That confrontation opens old wounds because Tiff believes Dolly failed her when she was young. Now, Dolly is criticizing Tiff's parenting while offering to do for EJ what Tiff believes she never did for her own daughter. Tiff does not want to surrender her child, but she also has to confront the fact that grief, business, and her relationship with Nuck have distracted her from motherhood. Season 8 repeatedly asks its characters to judge themselves by more than their intentions. Everybody says they are doing what is best for family, but are their daily choices actually proving it? The biggest legal storyline begins with Victor and Shaad being accused in connection with Alicia's murder. Victor's hospital alibi initially fails to protect him, while the woman who could support Shaad's story disappears. Both men already have histories that make them easy targets. Victor may have built a political career and attempted to become a community leader, but the legal system still sees Trig. Shaad may have changed his life after prison, but the system still sees a convicted criminal. That is where Patience enters the season. Patience becomes the lawyer representing Shaad and eventually Victor. She refuses to sit back and hope the system discovers the truth. She finds Nora, obtains a statement, and searches the hospital's security footage for evidence supporting Victor's innocence. Her determination becomes one of the most effective parts of the season. She understands that innocent people do not always survive by simply telling the truth. Sometimes the truth has to be hunted down, protected, and dragged into the courtroom before somebody makes it disappear. Victor is eventually cleared, but freedom does not erase what happened. His reputation is damaged. His relationship with Fatima remains uncertain, and he is pulled back into dangerous situations almost immediately after getting out. Fatima returns and begins reconnecting with Victor. The chemistry between them remains strong, but the old problems are still present. Fatima wants to feel like Victor's top priority. Victor cares about her, but he also has responsibilities toward Jake, his community, and everyone who depends on him. Fatima wants the kind of love where nothing else comes first. Victor cannot honestly promise that. Their relationship is not failing because they do not love each other. It is struggling because love means something different to each of them. Shaad and Patience also begin developing a deeper connection, but their relationship becomes complicated by Shaad's determination to discover who killed Nora. Nora's murder is connected to Rosalind and Reg. Reg reveals that Rosalind ordered the hit, but he only gives Shaad that information after Shaad pulls a gun and demands answers. Reg wants something in return. He wants help repairing his relationships with Victor and Jake. That is one of Reg's biggest motivations this season. He did not return simply to make money. He wants the power, respect, and family position he believes were taken from him. But Reg returns to a family that learned how to live without him. Jake no longer sees him as the older brother he remembers. Victor became Jake's protector. Victor created a stable home. Victor stood beside Jake through the years when Reg was believed to be dead. Reg shares blood with Jake. Victor shares history, sacrifice, and consistency. That difference creates tension from the moment Reg moves into the house. Jake attempts to stand up for himself, even pulling a gun on Reg, but Reg does not take him seriously. He knows Jake is angry, but he does not believe Jake is built to kill his own brother. Later, Jake throws a party and has Reg and his people removed. It gives Jake a small victory, but it also humiliates Reg. And Reg is not the kind of man who forgets humiliation. Reg begins rebuilding his criminal operation. He recruits people, makes deals, and eventually partners with Rosalind. He also takes advantage of people who feel trapped, including Bakari. Bakari enters the season caught between two possible futures. He has written a book called Made in the Child, but it is not selling the way he hoped. He wants to become an author. He wants Liney to believe he is changing, but he is still working beneath Nuck and surrounded by people who value him more as a soldier than a writer. Bakari's problem is not that he has no dream. His problem is that the streets provide immediate money while his dream requires patience. And patience is difficult when bills, threats, and responsibilities are waiting every day. Rafi becomes another source of pressure inside Nuck's organization. Rafi wants Bakari's position and becomes frustrated when Nuck refuses to promote him. He eventually leaves Nuck's crew and begins working for Reg. Nuck responds by bringing Big Mike and Smitty into the organization. Smitty had attempted to live legitimately after prison, but money problems and relationship pressure pull him back toward the streets. This creates two criminal groups forming around Nuck and Reg. Nuck controls the larger organization inherited from Duda. Reg is rebuilding from the outside with Rosalind's support. Both men believe the South Side belongs to them, but neither man fully understands that Tiff is about to change everything. During episode 5, Emmett finally proposes to Kiesha. The proposal represents the completion of a journey that began years earlier. Emmett once avoided responsibility. Kiesha once struggled to regain control over her life after surviving unimaginable trauma. Now they are trying to build a home, raise their children, and create something stable together. But at the exact moment, one relationship is moving toward marriage. Another relationship ends with murder. Lene receives Zay's recorded confession revealing the truth about Rob's death. The recording proves that Nuck was responsible. Victor receives the evidence and plays it for Tiff. Tiff does not call the police. She does not ask Nuck for an explanation. She does not take time to consider what killing him could do to her children or her future. She invites him over. Nuck arrives believing everything is normal. Then Tiff shoots him in the head. Just like that, the man who killed Duda and took control of the 63rd Street mob is gone. Nuck survives Dowda. He survives Alicia. He survives Reg's return, but he does not survive the woman whose grief he created. The murder is emotionally understandable. Nuck killed Rob and then entered Tiff's life while she was mourning him. But understandable does not mean safe. By killing Nuck, Tiff places herself, Victor, Emmett, Kiesha, and Bakari in danger. Victor helps her bury Nuck in her backyard. That decision immediately pulls him back into the exact type of life he claimed he wanted to escape. Victor had just cleared his name in one murder investigation. Then he helps cover up another murder. The Chi has always shown that redemption is not a straight road. Sometimes people escape a situation, walk 10 feet, and step directly into another one. After Nuck disappears, his organization begins asking questions. Smitty comes to Tiff's home looking for answers. Big Mike and the rest of the crew know something is wrong because Nuck has been missing for too long. Tiff tries to maintain control, but she is hiding a body in her backyard while standing in front of people trained to recognize lies. That is not a long-term business plan. That is a countdown. Tiff then forces Bakari to become part of the cover-up. Bakari knew the truth about Rob's death and failed to tell her. Because of that, Tiff believes he owes her. She makes him move into Nuck's apartment and work for her. Later, she decides Bakari will become the fall guy for Nuck's murder. Bakari agrees, but the plan makes very little sense. If he accepts responsibility, he could spend the rest of his life in prison. If he tells the truth, Tiff and Victor are exposed. And if the streets believe Bakari killed Nuck, members of the organization may kill him before police ever get the chance to arrest him. Bakari has spent the season trying to become more than the worst decisions of his past. Now Tiff is asking him to sacrifice his entire future to protect hers. Victor becomes increasingly uncomfortable with the arrangement. He understands that Bakari did not kill Nuck. He also knows that allowing a young man to take responsibility for their actions would destroy any claim Victor still has to being a community leader. But Victor cannot expose Tiff without exposing himself. That is the trap. Every lie requires another person to carry part of it. Eventually, the secret becomes too heavy for everyone. Detective Toussaint returns to investigate Nuck's disappearance. Toussaint has history with these characters, and understands the South Side well enough to know when people are rehearsing their answers. Bakari points her toward Tiff. Tiff then makes the situation worse by becoming defensive and saying too much. Toussaint recognizes that something is wrong. She may not know every detail yet, but she senses blood in the water. By episode 8, the investigation is no longer a background threat. Toussaint is moving closer to the truth, while Tiff's group is beginning to turn against itself. Emmett also discovers that Bakari did not kill Nuck. Victor confirms that the story is false. That places Emmett in another impossible position. He wants to be honest with Kiesha. He wants their marriage to begin without secrets. But telling her the truth could implicate Tiff, Victor, and possibly Emmett himself if he continues helping them hide it. Kiesha already believes Bakari is dangerous and pressures Emmett to fire him from Smokies. Emmett obeys even though he knows Bakari is being blamed for something he did not do. Once again, an adult protects the person with power by sacrificing the young man with fewer options. This cycle has followed Bakari for years. People tell him to change. Then they place him in situations where doing the right thing gives him nothing but punishment. Emmett eventually opens up about the truth surrounding Nuck. Keisha's reaction is important because she realizes their family is once again connected to violence. She is preparing to marry Emmett while learning that people close to them are covering up another murder. Kiesha has spent years trying to build safety, but safety keeps being treated like something temporary. Even when Emmett does not pull the trigger, the consequences continue arriving at his front door. The wedding preparations expose additional tension. Tiff offers to pay for and organize the wedding, partly because she loves Kiesha and partly because she is carrying guilt. Kiesha becomes more involved in making decisions while Emmett begins feeling as if he is losing control of his own wedding and household. Their disagreement is larger than decorations or money. Emmett wants to feel respected as the leader of the family. Kiesha believes leadership means making decisions based on a clear plan. She tells him that he does not always know where they are going or how they are getting there. That may be harsh, but it is not completely wrong. Emmett has matured, but he still reacts to crises rather than planning ahead for them. Kiesha refuses to become silent just to make him feel powerful. During episode 8, Tiff throws Keisha's bachelorette party. The women drink, receive massages, and talk openly about sex, relationships, and the different ways they experience love. Tiff throws herself into the celebration partly because focusing on Kiesha allows her to avoid confronting her own pain. She is happy for Kiesha, but there is also jealousy. Kiesha is receiving a version of Emmett that Tiff never experienced during their relationship. The responsible Emmett, the committed Emmett, the man preparing to become a husband and build a stable future. Tiff knows that Emmett's growth does not mean she failed, but emotionally it can still feel like Kiesha is enjoying the reward after Tiff survived the difficult years. Meanwhile, Emmett's bachelor party becomes a mess of its own. Darnell hires an attractive magician who ends up stealing Emmett's watch. Emmett tells Kiesha what happened, and his honesty helped prevent the situation from becoming a larger argument. That small moment is important. Earlier versions of Emmett would have hidden the truth, created a weak excuse, and then acted surprised when everything exploded. The current Emmett understands that secrets usually become more dangerous than the original mistake. Unfortunately, he has not applied that lesson to Nuck's murder. Episode 8 also reveals that Peaches has died. Her death affects Reg, Jake, and Victor differently. For Reg, it is another reminder of how much time and family he has lost. He returned believing he could reclaim his old position. But people are dying, relationships have changed, and the neighborhood no longer exists the way he remembers it. Reg continues pursuing money and power, but beneath that aggression is a man realizing he may not have much family left to come home to. Bakari also makes another major decision. He remains caught between protecting Tiff, protecting himself, and deciding whether he wants to continue living under someone else's control. Detective Toussaint is closing in. Smitty wants answers. Reg sees an opportunity to expand, and Emmett and Kiesha are approaching a wedding that could become the location where every secret finally collides. Looking at season 8 as a whole, the central theme is legacy. What are these characters leaving behind? Jada left behind a family that understands love, even if they do not always know how to express it. Pastor Ezekiel left Papa with questions about faith and leadership. Duda left behind a criminal organization that immediately began fighting over his empty chair. Nuck attempted to become the next boss, but his violence created the person who eventually killed him. Victor wants to be remembered as someone who changed, but he continues making decisions that connect him to the streets. Emmett wants his children to see him as a good father. Kiesha wants her family to inherit stability instead of trauma. Tiff wants independence, but her anger has placed her freedom in danger. Bakari wants to become a writer, but everyone around him continues treating him like a disposable soldier. And Jake is being forced to decide which brother's example he will follow. Now let's talk about what could happen during episode 9, Cold Feet. My first prediction is that Kiesha will seriously reconsider the wedding. The title Cold Feet is almost certainly connected to Emmett and Kiesha, but I do not believe the issue will simply be normal wedding anxiety. Kiesha now knows there's a major secret involving Nuck's murder. She may begin wondering whether marrying Emmett means permanently accepting the dangerous people and situations surrounding his life. Emmett did not kill Nuck, but he is protecting people who helped cover it up. Kiesha may ask him to choose between protecting Tiff and protecting the family they are trying to build. My second prediction is that Bakari will refuse to remain the fall guy. He may care about Tiff, Lonnie, and the people around him, but accepting responsibility for Nuck's murder would destroy his entire future. Detective Toussaint may offer him protection or a deal in exchange for the truth. Bakari will have to decide whether loyalty means sacrificing himself for people who were willing to sacrifice him first. My third prediction is that Detective Toussaint will discover evidence connecting Nuck's disappearance directly to Tiff's house. The body is buried in the backyard. Once Toussaint receives enough suspicion to search the property, the cover-up is over. Victor may attempt to move the body. Tiff may panic and make another violent decision. Or Emmett may learn they are planning another cover-up and finally refuse to participate. My fourth prediction is that Smitty and Reg will begin fighting for control of Nuck's organization. Smitty is attempting to maintain stability while Reg sees Nuck's disappearance as an opportunity. Tiff's new business arrangement with Reg may also give him access to money and information, but Smitty already distrusts Tiff. If he discovers she killed Nuck, he may target both her and Reg. My fifth prediction is that Jake will be forced to choose between Reg and Victor. Reg may ask Jake to prove his loyalty by helping him make a move against Smitty or someone else connected to the organization. Victor will try to stop him. Jake's decision could determine whether he completes the series moving toward a better future or becomes another member of his family consumed by the streets. My final episode 9 prediction is that the episode will end with somebody being arrested, shot, or disappearing before the wedding. The title suggests hesitation, but the season has built too much danger for the penultimate episode to end quietly. The most likely arrest is Tiff. The most likely person to run is Bakari. And the person most likely to be shot is Reggie or Smitty. Now let's move into predictions for the series finale, The Last Dance. My biggest prediction is that Emmett and Kiesha will still get married. The road to the wedding may be chaotic. Kiesha may temporarily call it off. Emmett may have to make a difficult decision about Tiff and the murder cover-up, but their marriage would complete one of the longest growth stories in the series. Emmett began the Chi as a young father, avoiding responsibility. Ending the series with him becoming a husband, businessman, and committed parent would provide a meaningful conclusion. The wedding will probably also honor Jada. Her absence will be felt throughout the ceremony. Emmett may carry something belonging to her or leave a seat open in her memory. The moment should be joyful, but it should also acknowledge the woman who helped him become the man standing at the altar. My second prediction is that Tiff will face consequences for killing Nuck. I do not believe the show can allow her to bury a major crime boss in the backyard and simply move on. But consequences do not necessarily mean she spends the rest of her life in prison. Bakari, Victor, or Detective Toussaint may help create a self-defense argument. Evidence of Nuck killing Rob and Pastor Ezekiel could influence how the case is handled. Tiff may confess, or she may leave Chicago to protect her children from the retaliation surrounding Nuck's organization. My third prediction is that Victor will accept responsibility for helping Tiff. Victor's story has always been about redemption. He has tried to move away from the man he used to be, but true redemption requires accountability. Instead of allowing Bakari to take the fall, Victor may tell the truth and accept the legal consequences of helping cover up Nuck's death. That choice would prove he finally understands that being a leader is not about speeches or political office. It is about refusing to let someone younger and more vulnerable pay for your decisions. My fourth prediction is that Bakari will survive and choose writing over the streets. His book may finally receive attention because of everything happening around Nuck's death. But more importantly, Bakari needs to decide that surviving is not enough. He must remove himself from people who only value him when they need someone threatened, blamed, or killed. His ending could involve leaving Chicago with Line A, attending school, or receiving a real publishing opportunity. My fifth prediction is that Reg will die protecting Jake. Reg has spent the season chasing money and respect, but his return will feel incomplete unless he makes one decision that proves family matters more than power. Smitty or another member of Nuck's organization may target Jake. Reg could sacrifice himself to protect his younger brother. That would not erase everything Reg has done, but it would give his return emotional purpose and finally end the conflict between him and Victor. My sixth prediction is that Papa will return to his faith with a different understanding of leadership. He may no longer believe every religious leader is good or that faith prevents tragedy, but he can still decide that helping people matters. Papa could create his own ministry, continue his podcast, or become a community organizer who speaks honestly about grief instead of pretending belief removes pain. My final prediction is that the series ends by focusing on the next generation. The Chi began with young people attempting to survive decisions made by adults. The final scene may return to that perspective. We could see Emmett's children, Devontae's friends, or another group of kids walking through the neighborhood. The message would not be that every problem on the South Side has been solved. That would not be honest. The message would be that life continues. One generation leaves behind both damage and wisdom. The next generation must decide what to do with it. Overall, I would give season 8 through episode 8 a 7.5 out of 10. The season contains strong emotional material. Jada's absence gives Emmett and Darnell meaningful grief. Nuck's death changes the balance of power. Victor and Shaad's legal struggle creates real stakes. Bakari's battle between writing and the streets remains compelling. And Emmett and Kiesha's wedding gives the final season a clear emotional destination. But the season still suffers from a problem the Chi has carried for years. There are too many characters and not enough time. Some storylines are introduced when the series should be concentrating on conclusions. Several characters disappear for long stretches, and their major moments sometimes move so quickly that the emotional consequences do not receive enough space if we only have 2 episodes left. The show must resolve Nuck's murder, Tiff's future, Bakari's decision, Reggie's power move, Victor's redemption, Papa's faith, and Emmett and Kiesha's wedding. That is a lot of luggage to fit into one final Chicago train ride. But the Chi has never been a perfectly organized story. It has always been messy because the people inside it are messy. They love each other. They hurt each other. They make progress and then repeat old mistakes. And they build families in the middle of grief. And they continue searching for joy even when the neighborhood gives them another reason to quit. That is what the final 2 episodes must remember. The ending does not need to make everybody rich, healed, or completely safe. It needs to show that everything these characters survive changed them. Emmett must prove that he can lead his family. Kiesha must decide whether she can build a future without allowing fear to control it. Tiff must confront the cost of revenge. Victor must choose accountability over appearance. Bakari must choose his future over loyalty to the streets. Jake must decide which brother he wants to become. and the community must continue after losing people who once seemed permanent. Now, let me know what you think. Will Emmett and Kiesha make it down the aisle? Will Tiff be arrested for killing Nuck? Do you believe Bakari will tell Detective Toussaint the truth? And who wins the battle for control between Reg and Smitty? Drop your predictions in the comments. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to Chronic Series, and turn on your notifications as we prepare for the final 2 episodes of The Chai.